lost in the standoff between the UN and the M23 rebels.
Hello and a very good evening from a very chilly Nairobi. Welcome, Africa, to SABC News Channel. The latest from the deadline given by MONUSCO for all negative forces to disarm within 48 hours is that it remains calm in the DRC, in the eastern DRC. We still have not had any news of any forceful disarmament, and so we are still awaiting news. What we know for sure is that MONUSCO has issued a warning and a deadline that by tonight, everybody who has arms and they are illegally possessing those arms, they must surrender them either to MONUSCO or to the DRC forces, failure to which MONUSCO then will be forced to disarm them forcefully, and if need be, then they will have to, a fight will ensue between the two parties.
Please give us an update on the oil shutdown in South Sudan.
Well, South Sudan, what we know is that yesterday during the Great Lakes Summit, there was a meeting during the Great Lakes Summit. The vice president, the second vice president of Sudan, halt Yousef, had a chance to explain the situation between the tensions between his country and South Sudan. And what he said is that his country believes that South Sudan is arming the rebels that are fighting the Khartoum government. Benjamin Mariel, who is the Foreign Affairs Minister designate for South Sudan, however, says that his country is not arming the rebels. And so what they have agreed is that they will give the African Union time to deal with it and to investigate. And so initially there was supposed to be a shutdown of the oil pipes yesterday. That has now been put on hold for 2 weeks. And Sudan says it seems like things are working out, and they are saying if the relations and that talks continue as they are going now, there actually may not be a shutdown.
Sarah, are there any major stories in that region that you are tracking and that you would like to pick up on?
Well, yes, it would be unfortunate if we left without talking about the teacher strike that was here in Nairobi. What has happened is that the teachers went back to work after being out of work for 3 weeks. But unfortunately, what has happened is that the government has said that the teachers will not be getting their pay. So what happens is that the teachers are now in school, but they are saying that they are going to be on a go-slow. So Kenyan parents are waiting to see if indeed teachers from public schools in the country will make good their threat. Kenya is facing a lot of threats of strikes. We have doctors also issuing an ultimatum to go on strike. We also have lecturers, university lecturers in public universities, also saying that they will be going on strike. The reason all these people are issuing strike threats is because Kenyan members of parliament had a salary hike, and so they are saying that initially all these organizations have had agreements with the government, and the government has not honored those agreements. But what has happened also is that the government now is streamlining its payroll system following the devolution system, where now power is being decentralized, payrolls are being decentralized, and so their pays have been late, and they're saying if they do not get their pays, they're all going to down their tools. But also today, we had a development where members of parliament refused to discuss or to debate a very important bill, the VAT bill, saying unless they're given their car grants, then they will not be going on recess, but they also will not be discussing or debating the VAT bill, which is very important because the Kenyan government is looking for money to be able to fund its day-to-day running, and considering that the government is facing a current account deficit, then they need this money. Back to you in studio.
That was our East Africa correspondent, Sarah Kimani.
We're going to stay in the region, actually, and Sarah did touch on it a little bit during that chat with Babakshani. Oil pipes to South Sudan may not be shut after all. Sudan's second vice president says that recent talks over an end to alleged rebel support by the South may just halt a possible oil shutdown by Khartoum. Sudan's halt Yousef says that his country is confident that the rebels in his country were receiving support from Juba, a claim denied by South Sudan. Sudan has in the meantime postponed 2-week notice to shut the oil pipes until the claims are verified.
Kenya remains concerned with the recurring tensions between the Republic of Sudan and the Republic of South Sudan. Being the guarantor of the comprehensive peace agreement between these nations, we indeed call for the quick political and diplomatic resolution of all outstanding issues.
They both need the oil revenue, but allegations of rebel support stands in the way of its flow. So each side sought to have leaders gathered at the Great Lakes Summit hear their story.
We are fully confident that they they receive support from the Republic of South Sudan because they are part of them.
Yes, indeed, we know those who are fighting in the Sudan because they were our former colleagues in the struggle. But when the two countries became two independent states, we completely ceased any support, either materially or in fact physically, in the Republic of Sudan.
In the midst of the seeming disagreement, they are clear the oil must flow.
The good relations and the good steps which have been taken in the last 2 weeks or so, I think will help, of course, that oil to continue and not to be stopped again. By having that oil passing to Port Sudan, we have benefit as a country, and the south of Sudan, of course, has benefit from that oil.
Khartoum had threatened to shut the oil at the end of July, but it has postponed the shutdown by 2 weeks to allow the African Union to investigate its complaints. Sarah Kimani, SABC News, Kenya.